This is Tyrese Haliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
What is up, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. I'm your host, Alex Golden, and joining me is my co-host, the president of the Jermaine O'Neal fan club, Michael J. Facci. Got him a little excited on that one. Facci, how's it going?
Hey, sometimes you say president of the Taylor Peter fan club, and sometimes I get Jermaine. So anytime it's Jermaine, I am all in. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I think the president of the Jermaine O'Neal fan club will probably last a little bit longer than the Taylor Peter fan club.
I think so. I think so.
But might be a bigger audience as well.
It might. But for Taylor and Peter, I hope your career goes long and long, on. And I'm still rooting for you in Summer League. I want to see you do everything you can to strengthen your standing.
Alrighty. So on Friday afternoon, we heard from Rick Carlisle for the first time in the offseason. It's been a while since we've seen Rick, and it was good to see the front office and the coaching staff and the players all sitting courtside for these games. But getting to hear Rick Carlisle on the ESPN2 broadcast of the game was pretty interesting. We heard him talk about, Tyrese Haliburton, Ivica Zubac, Jarace Walker, and then Yuki Kawamura. So kind of curious, where you want to start, but I kind of figured with the tease I did last episode, probably jump in with Tyrese Haliburton first.
Let's do Haliburton.
Alrighty, so this is what Rick Carlisle had to say when talking about Tyrese. So there wasn't a whole lot. He just said Ty's doing well. He's been playing 5-on-5 for a long time. It's going to be a bit of a journey for him as this thing goes. Kind of big picture kind of thing. He's aggressively attacking the summer and looking forward to being back on the court. Thought that was somewhat, cagey, I guess is the right word. I don't know. He didn't say too much, but gave you enough. And then we got Chris Haynes reporting during the game on Amazon Prime that the Pacers expect Tyrese Haliburton to be ready for the start of training camp. And I thought, is this news? That was always the plan. It shouldn't take him more than 14 months to be ready to recover from an Achilles injury. We got guys coming back 9 months after the surgery. So I don't know why that felt like it was an unnecessary report, but this is something that rubs me the wrong way about Chris Haynes. I don't know if you feel that way or not, but this dude always just kind of rubs me the wrong way as like a filler. Like there's so many better reporters out there than him.
I agree. I feel like a while ago, I think he had like a really good relationship with Damian Lillard, and I feel like he was like breaking some news on like Dame. I feel like, but
Dame stuff, yeah.
But other than that, it was like what did he reported something recently when it was like the Yves Missy, like rejected, like that like meme out there. It's like, who does that? Like who reports on like that? Like it was just totally like, yeah, the Knicks got rejected on their trade offer. And so I feel like that was kind of like not clickbaitish, but like look at me type of tweet. So for Chris Haynes, I like the like you should be ready. It's like, come on, man, it'll be like 16 months.
Facci reported that as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the plan was always to be ready by the start of the season. That's why he sat out. They didn't rush him back at all. So I didn't think that was news. I thought that was kind of sharing the obvious.
Okay, so from what Rick said here, been playing 5-on-5 for a long time. That's really good to hear. He had his camp here not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, with a lot of young kids, and I heard, and I guess there was a video that was out there. Maybe I didn't see it, but threw an alley-oop to Obi Toppin, which was cool to see. But I thought that he said it's going to be a bit of a journey for him as this thing goes. Kind of big picture kind of thing. Kind of curious what that means, but to me it sounds like let's ease him back into this and not kind of like throw him in full throttle.
I think when you're dealing with someone as important as Tyrese, it's very important to just say, you know what? It's still going to be a long season. If we think we're as good as we should be, then the real thing is having him playing his best basketball by April, May, June of 2027. So I feel like, hey, why risk a lot early on? It's not to say don't play him, but it's to say that like, yeah, maybe he is on a minutes restriction early on, and I don't disagree with it. I feel like if you're getting 15 to 25 minutes of Tyrese Haliburton in the beginning of the season, I'm fine with that. I think it's great because we saw what this team looks like without him. So yeah, he'll rev up eventually. But for October, I'm not worried about it at all.
Yeah, I completely agree. So let's move forward here to what Rick Carlisle had to say about Ivica Zubac. This is what he had to say about Big Zoo. He said, Zoo is going to really help us. Our team's going to look a little different than it did a year and some change ago when we got to the finals, but we're excited about making the adjustments. He then talked about the learning curve of Tyrese and Zoo playing together, as well as incorporating others with Zoo. He said there will be some adjustments. we're looking at some things offensively that we'll need to tweak on the one hand, but on the other hand, we've not had a guy that can put that kind of rim pressure he can put on with rolls and seals and putting guys in the basket at the rim. So, I just felt like that was stuff we've kind of already heard Rick say about Zoo before, but at the same time, I like that they're going to be making some adjustments. I like that they're going to be playing a little bit differently. I'm curious how the style of how Zoo likes to play is incorporated with the style the Pacers were so successful with just 2 years ago.
You got to find some sort of balance. I think that you can't just like morph him into being a Miles Turner. Like he's got to be who he's been with some adjustments to, being able to, maybe play a little further out from the rim at times, like be able to develop that shot that we're all hoping that he can. So can't wait to see him with this group because it's very easy for everyone to dwell on the lack of a first round pick in this draft class because that's recency biased. We just it's July. The draft just happened. We were out in the cold. It stinks. But we're gonna be really happy when we see Tyrese and Big Zoo playing together. I think that the sky's the limit for that group.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to see how they incorporate Big Zoo because I do think that he is a unique player and a unique fit to what they've done previously. But is he going to be able to spread the floor and actually shoot threes this year? I think that's going to be a fascinating development just to see how much they ask him to do it, how much he's willing to do it, but also do they take advantage of some of the mismatches he can provide by going down low and being a low post scorer? Like that is something we have not really seen. And I wonder how much more of a dynamic that'll add to this team if they can actually truly be an inside-outside team, Foch, where they're not just so much relying upon like, hey, we're an outside shooting team that can drive to the basket, but hey, we can play both inside and outside. I think that's really fascinating.
Every time Turner's name comes up, I don't want it to be disrespect, but like Turner wasn't drawing double teams. Like that's going to happen
He was drawing guards on him. Like that's what he was doing.
Literally, and not taking advantage of it.
No.
So I just feel like this is going to be a situation where like, Zubac is going to be commanding double teams, and that is going to be dangerous when you're talking about if the Pacers shooters can get back to how they were 2 seasons ago, where you got Obi shooting 40%, you got Nesmith shooting above 40%, obviously Haliburton being able to shoot, 40% or better. Like that makes the Pacers, I mean, even Siakam had a run shooting about 40% or so from three. So like that's going to make the Pacers very, very dangerous if you could surround Zubac with really good shooters. So I can't wait to see that and how this could change the entire offense.
Well, what's really funny is you talk about how Turner was never able to draw any, any help defense or any double teams and not take advantage of guards being on him. But the picture that I used for this article on SI is where Big Zoo is down low in the post and he's got a guard on him and he's got Malawatch on him and then he's got somebody else on the other side of him. He's got 3 dudes draped right around his area because they're afraid of what he can do with putting pressure on the rim. And if he's going to draw that much attention and you've got a guy like Aaron Nesmith sitting in the corner or Obi Toppin sitting at the top of the key, Tyrese, Pascal, whoever, like all of these guys are capable of hitting the outside shot, but also if the shot's there and a guy flies out on them, they can drive right by and then just get to the next open man. So I just think that we haven't really unlocked the full potential of this, and we're going to dive more into all of that, obviously, as the year goes on. But just hearing Rick say that, we're going to be looking at some things and playing a little bit different. It is going to be fascinating. But the most interesting thing I think Rick Carlisle said was his comments about Jarace Walker, and I shared some of them in a tweet, but I bet I left everything in the article for what it is. So I'll just read it really quick, and then I want to hear your responses after this. So here's what Rick Carlisle had to say about Jarace Walker. We need him to be a star in his role as a great system player for us. He has some very unique abilities, and he has some star capabilities, but we're such an ecosystem team and we depend so much on one another that you can't approach things from an individual standpoint. Be a great system player and allow the system to help amplify your individual skills. Carlisle continued on Walker and said he played point guard 1 year at IMG because someone had an injury. He has great vision and he has great passing, but it's important that he is also a threat to score or his passing won't be as effective. A lot to unpack there from what Rick had to say about Jarace, but interested your thoughts on what he said.
It's not the most encouraging thing. I mean, it's not like, hey, Jarace, I've seen him this offseason. He looks great. He's working on that. Or I'm incredibly encouraged to see what he can do. I felt like it's you're basically, I'm not trying to say put him in a box, but it's basically to say, we need you to star in what we're asking you to do at times, not like really step out and really be, someone that kind of has the offense going off track. Like when they're saying about the ecosystem, we all know what that means. And I feel like at times it's kind of somewhat similar to what we kind of heard about Mathurin at times of like sometimes he could kind of want to do his own thing a little bit. And yeah, I get the, when it came back at the end to say like, hey, you got to be able to score the ball also. It's like, yeah, at times we do need you to be a little bit more aggressive. At times we do need you to, maybe rebound a little bit better or just kind of play some better defense or like all those little things because he might not have this large 30-minute a night type of role where the ball's in your hands. It's more of, hey, when you get touches, what can you do with it? When you're not getting touches, what can you do to contribute to winning? So I feel like it's not the greatest comments to make for like a former top 10 pick. They're not bad, discouraging comments, but it's not necessarily a big vote of confidence is what I would say.
Yeah, it's really interesting because he said he's got star capabilities, but this team is such an ecosystem team that they depend on one another. And, a lot of people praised the end of the season Jarace had last year. I've heard the front office praise him. I've heard people that cover the team praise him. I've heard a lot of fans praise him. And so maybe Jarace was starting to get that. And maybe this message is just a reminder that if it were to get back to Jarace somehow or his people somehow, like Rick believes in you. Rick sees all these capabilities in you, but is what you do well benefiting the team if you're not doing it within that ecosystem? That can be where it's a problem. And clearly we know that Jarace is heading into a contract year, which means a lot of times players try to prove themselves in contract season. So I also wonder too if that was another thing in the back of Rick's mind, like, hey, we want to remind you, like, your role is not going to be the same as it was last year. You are going to be held to a higher standard. If you are not playing well, you have a guy in Ben Shepard that's probably right there waiting in the wing to take those minutes. Or if you're not playing better than Shepard, you might not even be in the rotation. So we'll talk about that here in a second. But overall, Facci, I think Jarace Walker is a young 22-year-old who still has a lot of room to grow and a lot of room to improve as a player. And look, if he continues to take strides, like there's a strong belief that he could be a part of this team's future if he is to kind of fit in this role perfectly and just eventually evolve into like maybe more of a prominent core piece. But at the same time, there's just a lot I feel like that's on his shoulders, and it's hard not to draw the Mathurin comparison because we all saw the potential with Mathurin as well, but we also saw the fit wasn't great. And if it's coming down to where the coaching staff and people might dislike this and it might not be the right decision overall, but I'm not going to go against Rick Carlisle, who's coached this team to the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years, back to back. If he thinks that Ben Shepard is a better player for this team than Jarace Walker, then I think we have to just trust that Jarace Walker isn't doing enough to really separate himself. And that is a little bit concerning considering he is 22 and Shepard's 26 and they were both drafted in the same draft class.
This isn't year one anymore where I feel like people could have made that argument to say like Carlisle's holding Jarace back, or like what's going on? He needs to play more. There's a larger sample size now where like if he's not, it's because he's just not living up to what expectations were, and that the team is just in a different spot than when they drafted Jarace. I mean, a lot's changed with it. Like you really got to think about that. Like when Jarace was drafted, Pascal Siakam wasn't even on this roster.
Yeah.
So they've experienced a lot of winning and things since, and guys have stepped up. And I feel like for Jarace right now, I kind of feel like before the NBA Finals when he got hurt against the Knicks is really where he was kind of starring in his role. Like he was playing really solid basketball during that playoff run, during that stint. And it's definitely a shame that he didn't get to play in the NBA Finals, but you got to continue to go with it. He does have a lot of talent, but I don't think that like it benefits the team the most to say unleash Jarace. Right now, it's like, no, if you're the ninth man and you could be a star ninth man, then the team is probably going to be even better from it. But yeah, I wouldn't blame him if he is trying to do those things like get paid and make sure you have a strong season. I just don't think it's going to bode well with how the team wants to bounce back and truly win a title, not just like be a middle of the pack team or, in it. Like it's going to be, he's not, like we said, he's just not going to have the same role that he had last year. And he did not look great last year consistently at all in a much larger role.
Yeah, and I honestly think too, like we've seen Jarace at times make these really nice passes and have these nice reads, but we've also seen him really struggle to make the right reads, right? We've also seen him struggle to, hold on to the basketball. And I think there's like this fine balance of like, we need you to be this, but we also need you to be this. And sometimes for a young player, it can get kind of confusing. Like for Rick to say, we need you to fit into your role and be a system player and do all this, but then also say, we got to have you score so your passing's effective. I think sometimes it's just a lot for guys to kind of like, what do you want me to do? Like, and I think what they really want him to do is, hey, if you're open, shoot the basketball. And hey, if you've got a drive, take that drive and drive with force. But if it's not there, then kick it out and make the right pass. And I think, we've seen some players do that. Like I think Aaron Nesmith is pretty good about that, moving the ball quick, things like that. Now, I think Jarace has the potential to have a much, much better drive than a guy like Aaron Nesmith because I don't think of him as a great passer. I think of him as a guy that's a willing passer. But when you think about guys that are great passers, you're looking at a guy in Jarace Walker who has threaded the needle multiple times when you're like, wow, I didn't realize that pass was there. Or you'll see Jarace get extremely loose with the ball. And honestly, like Rick didn't say anything about his defense. I think that is just as important as it is what he does on the offensive side of things. So be curious to kind of see how Rick feels Jarace Walker is as an overall defender. Maybe I'll ask Rick about that in a media day in a couple of months and just kind of be like, yeah, I heard you talk about his offense, what he needs to improve on. What do you want to see from him defensively? But overall, I just think that for Jarace, it makes it interesting. And I think, kind of segueing into our next conversation.
Real quick, I got something for you. For you real quick. Are we at a point now where do you think maybe the best case scenario for Jarace is developing into an Aaron Nesmith type of player who does star in his role? Like, I feel like he does star in that fifth starter type of role where there wasn't a great opportunity for him in Boston.
Mhm.
Like there truly wasn't. That's a lottery pick again, just like Jarace, who didn't really have a clear path of playing time. Now Jarace obviously playing more than what Nesmith was, early on in there, but a change of scenery did him wonders, being able to star in more of being a role player, a starter, but more of, like we said, that fifth starter. Do you think that's kind of the best case scenario for Jarace, or is there still a scenario where he could go somewhere else and be more than an Aaron Nesmith?
I would be shocked if he ever became more than an Aaron Nesmith level
Yeah,
player,
that's
in
where
my
I'm at.
opinion.
That's where I'm at.
Because think about it from this perspective, like when the Celtics traded Aaron Nesmith, right? They traded him in a deal that got them Malcolm Brogdon. And
Yep.
Malcolm Brogdon at the time was viewed as a much, much more valuable player.
Mhm.
And so here was the the knock on Nesmith was, here's this great shooter out of Vanderbilt that can't hit the broadside of a barn playing for us. But what did they call him in Boston? They called him Crash because he'd
Yep.
go out there and dive all over the floor for a loose ball, impact the game defensively, but he wasn't good enough offensively. Well, he comes to Indiana and he kind of finds his offense. So for the could there be a scenario where Jarace Walker does that, but it's the inverse of that, where he's got his offensive game figured out, but he can't find his defense? And is there a team out there that makes him a better defender? It's really hard for me to see guys just kind of like turn on the defensive switch because a lot of that's hustle and heart. And
Yeah,
Aaron Nesmith had all that. All he had to do was find the shot. So
I agree.
I would be stunned if Jarace Walker ever got to the level of an Aaron Nesmith in his career. And people might be feeling like that's like such a knock on him, because I'm not trying to be negative. I just don't really see it. Like I just see a very passive aggressive player
Yeah, I agree.
that, took his first charge last year, had one of his first ever like power dunks on somebody last year, and then he got hurt after the dunk happened. So it's just, that is not necessarily who he is by nature. And I think if he would be more of a willing vessel, I guess is the right way to say it, in terms of giving himself up a little bit more, his body up a little bit more, then that would go a long way for him. But he doesn't seem to have that next gear where Nesmith is willing to sacrifice. I mean, Tyrese Haliburton said he would die for this game, right? Like, give his life for this game. I don't think Jarace Walker has shown that he would do
I've not
that.
seen it. I have not seen that. I mean, there's times that we've seen Nesmith, I mean, show so much emotion, taking not just charges, clutch charges, like crazy putback dunks or the motion, everything you could possibly think of. And like, yeah, I just definitely feel like I don't even mean it as a diss, but I do feel like that's almost kind of where the bar is right now for Jarace Walker. Is like, could he develop into an Aaron Nesmith? And right now, I don't know. I think if you were to say who has a better career at this point, moving forward, I would probably say Nesmith, just because I feel like it's like we can see it now. He's had the change of scenery. He's developed, seems consistent. I do think some of that is ahead for Jarace Walker, where he could definitely be, an everyday starter for some team and, maybe not be even a top 3 option. Maybe he could be a 4th option and consistently on a team. But who knows? But guys that had it defensively, that didn't have it offensively, that have broken out, like a Dyson Daniels. I mean, he put it all together offensively, got a big contract. Davion Mitchell took a change of scenery, and both guys actually. Dyson Daniels had to leave from New Orleans to go to Atlanta. Davion Mitchell had to go from the Kings to Miami, even Toronto in between. So I feel like it's like those were players that needed to step out, be in a different setting, grow into their own game, and have both been better as a result. Hopefully that's ahead for Jarace, but obviously, hopefully it just happens here in Indiana and he can continue to grow. We don't want to say that he can't, but it's looking a little tough.
Yeah, I mean, I think some other player comparisons that would be kind of interesting for Jarace, someone like a Rui Hachimura, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, looking good. He's been looking good, man.
He just got paid by the Clippers, right?
Yep.
Like he got traded from the Wizards to the Lakers, wasn't really playing super great for the Wizards. I mean, I don't think he was ever great for the Lakers, but like he became like a beloved Laker
he
player,
became
right?
someone they they counted on as like a starter. He was good. He was good 3-point shooter, and he definitely had some moments where I feel like it was like, all right, Rui Hachimura is more than just some sort of like so-so role player. Looking at it right now, over the last few years with the Lakers, averaged about 13 plus points, shot well over 50% from the field. Wow, it actually is better than I thought. The last 3
really
years,
good.
he's averaged 13 points per game on over 50% shooting, over 41% from 3. Like that's a solid role player who's starting the majority of his games. He started 41 games last year, 57 out of 59 before that, and then 39 out of 68. So like he was counted on, and I feel like he played well. If Jarace could develop into a Rui Hachimura consistently, that would be awesome for the Pacers.
Yeah, something like that, or even someone like the level of like a Jakob Poeltl, right? Like guy that was with Toronto, kind of got buried, and then all of a sudden went to the Spurs, and the Spurs kind of like found like, hey, we can make a player out of him this way, and then obviously gets traded back to the Raptors, but never like an all-star level player. Like you're not looking at like, oh, this is the next James Harden or the next Jalen Brunson or whatever. Like he's somebody that is more of a role player that could potentially be better, and I'm sure there's better examples out there than what I'm putting out there, but I'm just trying to come up with like on the fly stuff. So interesting how Jarace's path could go, but like to me, it's not Jermaine O'Neal level. Like that's somebody we talk about a lot that got buried.
Not everybody can be Jermaine. Yeah.
No, but I mean, even with Jermaine, like this is like a decent draft pick, right? Like was he 16th overall, 18th overall?
In a stacked 96 draft. So unbelievable.
2023 wasn't stacked, was it?
Not quite like this. I mean, look, time will have to take its course, but obviously heavy at the top with Wemby. But for Jarace, yeah, I definitely feel like still, like you said, 22 years old. That's a baby in NBA terms.
Oh yeah,
essentially been in the league for a couple of years.
Some guys are getting drafted older than him, like a Axel Lindenberg, like Chris Duarte, those kind of guys. So it happens. But I mean, I still think there's good basketball left in Jarace for quite a while. But I do think maybe going somewhere else would help him. I don't know what the right team is, but I think defensively, if he doesn't figure that out, it's going to be hard for him to really have the level of impact that I think a lot of fans believe he can. So last topic here, Facci, which I was trying to segue to a little bit earlier ago. We'll just kind of go through it quickly. It kind of feels like there's this battle right now between him and Shepard. And I kind of feel like that's been the case since he got drafted. And it feels like it's just going to magnify even more this year. I think it's going to be one of the biggest storylines we talk about all offseason, all regular season, all training camp, because I think people are going to be curious who ends up starting next to Kelly Oubre in that, or starting, I always say that. Who's going to end up getting the spot as the backup 2-3 next to Kelly Oubre with that second unit? And you could probably make the case for both. But I'm kind of curious which way you think the Pacers will lean and how that'll all play out.
It's interesting because it feels like Shep versus Jarace is the new like Matherin versus Nembhard type of situation to like a lesser degree. We're not talking about like a starter role on the table, but you had the lottery pick versus the later pick, the second rounder, and now obviously with Shep and Jarace, they're both first round picks. But I just feel like Shep's been more steadily consistent over time of just like he kind of to an extent does star in his role. Like he knows his role and he's played it well and played it consistently. And sure, at times we could want more, but I just feel like with Jarace, there's like that higher ceiling that it just feels like he's not achieving. Where I feel like for Shep, you at least feel comfortable with what he is or what he can be and feels like it's obtainable for him to be able to reach that maybe full potential, I would say. So I feel like for Shep, it feels just more of a seamless type of part of this ecosystem where like you could put Shepard in there he could play 10 minutes in a night and you feel like you could get 10 good minutes out of him.
Yeah, it's tough because I think the Pacers front office, they want it to be Jarace. I think they want to see Jarace.
Yes, I would agree with that. Of course.
Right. But then again, their cap situation might say they don't. They don't want it to be Jarace. So I think that plays a factor into all of it. Now, not in terms of like who gets the minutes on the court right away. I think it's going to be a battle. But I think similar to what Matherin got, his sophomore season when they gave him the starting spot next to Bruce Brown and Tyrese, like they're like, we're going to see if this works, and we're going to give you the chance. We're going to give you the opportunity to go out there and earn it, and really separate yourself. Well, he didn't do that, and Buddy Hield came back into the starting five, and then Aaron Nesmith eventually got it there, and then by the trade deadline, it was Andrew Nembhard once again back in the starting five, and so. It's hard to go away from consistency. And I think that's a big thing for Jarace. If he can be consistent, like he can clearly get this spot over Sheppard. But because it would be great to have a guy out there that's 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" with a 7'2" wingspan, next to a guy like Kelly Oubre with another long wingspan. Like that could be a very difficult team to score on if they're locked in defensively. But like, don't discredit what Shep does. Like I posted a picture of Sheppard on Twitter from his Instagram page where I was like, Shep's ready for next season. And they're like, yeah, ready. Fans were like, ready for what? 4 points a game? And it's like, if you're looking at points per game for Sheppard, you're missing everything completely. Like that's not what he brings to the table. Sheppard is a guy that brings hustle, energy, defense. He is what Rick Carlisle said.
Every team needs it.
Yeah, Rick Carlisle basically is whatever Rick Carlisle asks of Jarace to do in terms of like being the best version of himself, like starring in his role. Like that is what Ben Sheppard has done since he's got here. And that's why like, even when they've gone away from him at times, and even when he has struggled at times, when push comes to shove and it's playoff time, who is Rick Carlisle calling off the bench to go out there and guard somebody? It's like, here comes Sheppard. And, while I still think there are better players out there than Sheppard and there's better upgrades out there than Sheppard, I don't know what they're going to do with him in the offseason either next year. But I just, it's hard to like look past what he's been able to do against opponents in the biggest stages. Like he's not the team's best defender. He'll fall to like 4th or 5th in terms of like best wing defenders on the team now with the addition of Oubre and with Nesmith and Nembhard out there already. But he's still a guy that can give you quality minutes, Facci. So it's going to be tough for Carlisle. I mean, my gut says they're going to start Walker out first. And if he starts to struggle, Nembhard will be there in a second. And I think it'll be very hard for Sheppard to lose his minutes to Jarace Walker once he gets that spot.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jarace should still be, given a little bit of a leg up on the opportunity, just because, like we said, like there's higher ceiling there, and I think that if Jarace is able to put it all together, yeah, you're getting a very good quality player, but we just haven't been able to see it consistently for too long. I feel like last year was a good opportunity, and to kind of leave without that like big vote of confidence. It's a little bit tough because, like we said, like now it's all about winning. It's all about winning. And that could really mean just totally being out of the rotation overall or playing a couple of minutes in the first half, a couple of minutes in the second half, and really not being able to make much of an impact. I feel like if you're only going to get 10 minutes out of one of those two players, I think Shep's 10 minutes are probably going to be more team friendly or team productive than 10 minutes of Jarace. I feel like he's someone who needs a bit of a longer leash to be able to kind of contribute meaningful minutes. But yeah, I think that that's what I'm excited to see, kind of how this works out in like preseason basketball, and then kind of take it from there. Because I remember different team, but I remember this time last year, almost going into the preseason, we were begging to have Shepard back out there with the injuries out there. I remember being like, man, I just really hope he's ready for game one. What are we gonna be doing without him? That's
Yeah.
where we were at.
I think people forget that he was out for quite a bit of time at the
Yeah.
beginning of the year. Like, it was multiple weeks, and
Yep.
they did not have to explain what it was during the preseason training camp type of thing, because they didn't want it to get like overblown. But it was a calf strain that he was dealing with,
Mhm.
and I remember Shep saying like, "Yeah, my calf's been a little sore," and everyone's like, "Oh God, Achilles!" You know, that was like a sore subject, and it still is. But yeah, I think that people overlook what Shepard brings to the table. And I think probably most fans overvalue what Jarace Walker brings to the table, but I think both are probably a little bit. I don't want to say. I think Shepard's better than people give him credit for, and I think that Jarace is a little bit less talented as people act like he is. But I still think that they're both really good players, right? Like, I think they both can really star in the role as like the 9th, 10th man on this team. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that they have the capabilities to do that.
They do.
And anybody acting like either one of them as like our 9th or 10th man, with Huff clearly now as the backup 5, with the moving on of Micah Potter, like, you know, it could be a lot worse. You could have a lot worse players there in those spots that haven't had that talent, so, or had that opportunity with that talent. So it'll be interesting to see what all plays out with Carlisle. But I think that's going to wrap it up for today's show, Foch. I think that's enough of the conversation here. So anything else you want to throw out there before we sign off?
No, I would just say that, yeah, I mean, there's always going to be battles, always going to be battles. That is the life of being in the NBA, is like very few players' jobs are totally safe. And I think that, anytime the salary cap situation is what it is, it creates a little bit of a scenario where there's only so many guys that you could really protect. Almost kind of makes it feel like an expansion draft type of situation, that we know who the Pacers' top 7 is, that they would protect. Everybody after that, it's you got to prove it consistently. It kind of feels like where the Pacers are at right now.
That's an interesting topic with how the roster is currently at, or where it's at now. Who would the Pacers protect in an expansion draft? Would it be Kelly Oubre or would it be Jarace Walker?
I was gonna say, I feel like if you were to say, yeah, they could protect, you moved it out a little bit, like 8 or 9, then it would get really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So, but even with some of the contracts expiring, like, they could change like who they would protect and who they wouldn't. But that's neither here nor there. So, Pacer Nation, thank you all so much for tuning in. Facci will be back recapping the Pacers' last Summer League game of the regular schedule on Wednesday. I believe they play the Minnesota Timberwolves, so that'll be an interesting one there. I will not be able to make that podcast. I will be out at a concert at Ruoff, going to go listen to the Strokes. So excited about that. So Facci's going to have that game covered for you. Do you have a guest lined up yet or not?
Not yet. I've asked someone, but waiting to hear back.
Okay. All right. We'll keep you guys on your toes there with who Facci is going to bring on to talk about the game. But that'll be interesting as well. And I'll probably have another episode for you in between that recap and something else. So really appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And Facci, if you're hoping the Pacers can keep playing some solid basketball in Summer League, hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers.